Good morning, Paula Dahl.
Good morning,
How are
Robert.
you?
I'm very good.
Awesome. So, we're going to talk about Storming of Thunder Ridge, the John Bell Memorial Ride, and that is May 21st?
Yes, 21st.
And there's so many different aspects, actually components, let's say, because there's different rides for different people, for different comfort levels and experience. So, but before we get into that, let's talk about how this started, because I knew Dr. Bell.
Yes.
And of course, he was hit while he was cycling.
Right.
And you all, who actually started this?
So Storming of Thunder Ridge has been a cycling event that's been around since probably the late 80s.
Mm-hmm.
It's changed hands from different nonprofits. And back in 2020, there was nobody that was doing it anymore. And I'm a cyclist as well. And I worked for the YMCA. And this was back when we just started our fundraising efforts. And I said, this will be a good fundraiser for us. So I started back in 2020. Our first ride, we had 212 riders, mostly local riders. And that year we had a 35 miler and a 65 miler. So we didn't have the real long distance yet. And we did that for 2 years. We didn't even start at the Y. We started at a Forest Medical Center. And it really, the Y wasn't involved back then. It was more just a bunch of my friends, and I kind of brought it to the Y. Hey, I'll do this. You don't have to do anything. We'll just do it, and we'll give you the money. So then it got big. So first year it was 112. Second year was 280. And then I went to Susan Landrigan, our CEO at the time, and I said, look, this thing is going to grow, and we need to do it at the Y. So in 2012, we started at the Y, and that year we grew to over 300 riders. And each year the net profits for our annual fund have grown. And the most it's generated back in 2019, we raised over $50,000, so which was really good for our community support functions. So but it's been growing ever since. Our biggest year was 2021. During the pandemic, we came back about a year after everything kind of hit the fan. We came back and just did everything real safe, and we had 854 riders that year. And they come from that year they came 21 different states. They didn't come from Canada that year because the Canadians couldn't come in. But it's grown, and it's probably one of the biggest rides definitely in Virginia, but I would say almost on the East Coast.
It amazes me because it's like it's going to rival the 10-miler eventually.
Hopefully it will. But it's like, so we're limited on the parkway. So we use the Blue Ridge Parkway. So they will not permit us for more. This year we got a permit for 800 riders. So by us having the other routes, we probably get maybe 20% of our participants do not go up on the parkway. Yeah. They stay down in what I call the valley. A lot of people wouldn't call this a valley, but I do. So it gives us growth that way, but we are limited to the parkway. So
there's 5 different routes.
Yes.
So there's a 27, a 45, a 48, a 75 mile, and a 100 mile.
Right. So the 48 is something we came up with probably 4 years ago. We call it the Mountain Loop. So they have a remote start in Sedalia. So they can ride the parkway without having to ride 75 miles, because from the Y it's 75 miles. So that attracts some people, because as we get older, that mileage gets harder and harder for some of us. Some people remain, they're just superhuman. So it has a lot of options, and I would love that 27 miler to grow. It's our smallest route, and I would love to get the people off of the Blackwater Creek Trail and get them to come out and ride with us on the road. Because it is safer when you're on an organized ride and you've got, people out there. You've got SAG drivers looking out for you. You've got a lot of people. We have signs, caution signs everywhere. So when it's on a Sunday morning, not as much traffic. So it'd be a good experience for someone to ride a bike off the trail.
So the 75 and 100 mile loops, a 13-mile ascent to Apple Orchard Mountain.
Right. So so back when I was in my 40s, when I was lean, mean climbing machine, I could do it in about an hour, 15 minutes. Now it takes me about 2 hours and 10 minutes. And it's just,
miles.
yeah, so it's continuous. That's, if you go, so that's going south on the parkway, that's a continuous climb. If you go north toward House Mountain, you have a couple dips in there, so it's not as hard. So, but it's a challenge, and it's the longest continuous climb in the state of Virginia on the Blue Ridge Parkway. So people come from all over to climb that thing. Back in the day, remember when we had the Tour de Pont? That was part of their route. They would always go up there. And one year, one of the professional riders, Isaac Ekimoff, said, "It is long, but it is not very steep."
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
if you don't think so. So tell us, so you're raising $40,000 to $50,000 typically, it seems. How do you get your sponsors? Yeah.
So I start gathering sponsors early October. I'm very thankful. Beacon Credit Union has been our title sponsor for probably 5 or 6 years now.
That's awesome.
We also have Life Fitness in the city of Lynchburg is one of our main sponsors, and I have probably 30 sponsors. And our sponsor levels are pretty reasonable. You can come in as little as $250 and as much as you want to give. So, and that's what helps us defray the costs, because cycling events are much more expensive to run than running events, because you have to provide more food. Most cyclists are not little skinny runners. We like to eat. So we have rest stops. We have rest stops every about 15 to 20 miles. A little bit more on the parkway because you are climbing.
Yes.
So it's a well-supported event. 7 rest stops for the 100-miler. And the 27-miler has 1 rest stop. It's an out and back. So they get a little rest stop too. And then we have a big pizza party at the end.
Yeah. It's, I was on the website, it said post party, and I was like, well, I wonder what cyclists like to eat.
Yeah, pizza.
Well.
Carbs, carbs.
Lots of carbs. And so you have a track that's or whatever you would call that is mountain only.
Yes. So the mountain only does the same ride that the 75 and 100 does, but it starts in Sedalia. So it'll basically go down 122, then up to the Parkway in Big Island, and then come around, get off on 43, and then come back Joplin back to. We have a little area called Curtis, which is probably one of the prettiest places you have ever ridden through, or have you driven a car through there ever?
Is there a creek through there?
Yes, there's a creek.
Yes, it's
and
beautiful.
You can see the parkway, you can see the radar tower, and I think it's one of the prettiest areas. And I think a lot of people that don't ride a bike never get the chance to go back there, because there would be no reason to go back
there's no
there.
reason to go back there.
Yeah, but it's really pretty.
That's
really
awesome.
Pretty. So that's where the 45-miler goes to. From the Y, they'll go and do that Curtis loop. They won't go on the parkway, but they'll be under the parkway, and then they come back. And that's a real popular ride.
And so the funds go to the Y,
Yes.
and they go to, it's for their campaign for wellness of children.
Yes.
What does that exactly mean?
So it could be, we do outreach swim lessons. We do youth sports. We offer family memberships for people that are in need. We childcare. I'm sure I don't know if the funds go to childcare because that's subsidized usually by United Way. But anything to do with kids, and we also have a program called Power Scholars. During the summer, it's 5 weeks of continuing education in reading and writing, and a lot of times the money has gone to that. But we get grants now, so a lot of it doesn't go to that as much as it used to.
So who does your grant writing? Is it an employee of the Y?
Yes. So we have a couple people that do that. So Mary Taylor's our development director, and for the kids we have Rebecca. I can't think of her last name. I'm so sorry, but she does a lot of the grant writing for the children's programs.
That's great.
Yep.
Everybody that we are having conversations with, they're talking about grants.
Yes.
And grant writing is not easy. Actually, it's not at all.
I've never done it. I would like to do it if I had more time, because I'm sure I could probably get a grant. for Storm and Thunder,
Yes.
John Bell Memorial Ride. So I need to look into that because that would be more money for our cause.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And I have written for grants, so no, it's not easy.
No.
It's not a race, it's a ride.
Right.
So I guess some of these people are really good.
Right. So most of your cyclists, people that race or that care about their time, their speed, they will have they'll have a GPS computer that'll track their ride, and then they upload it to different platforms, whether it be Strava or Ride with GPS or Garmin Connect. So even though it's not a race, people will know who won.
Oh, yes. Imagine. I was one of those runners, so I understand that.
So in this day and age with technology, even though we don't have chip timing, people will try to race it. But I really promote, enjoy the day.
Yeah, have a good time.
Life is short. Enjoy the day.
Well, and if 100 people aren't racing, then
yeah, and that's what I think draws a lot of people is because as we get older, it's not about the time, it's about the journey. And
That's
a lot
exactly
of people
right.
come here to the Blue Ridge Mountains to enjoy the journey.
Yes.
So you can't do that if you're looking at a stopwatch.
That's exactly right. One of the most beautiful places in the world.
Yes.
How many volunteers do you have?
So normally it's over 100 volunteers, and so we are always looking for volunteers. So if you want to be involved, please contact the Y. They'll get you in touch with me. And so we have volunteers, rest stop volunteers. We have people that work at the Y for packet pickup, people that ride at the post-ride party. We have SAG drivers. So if you're a cyclist that, let's say you're a mountain biker and you don't do road rides, you want to help us and you've got a bike rack, we'd love to have you because we just have people stationed all throughout the routes. And we just kind of dispatch them, hey, so-and-so's needs a haul into the Y. So we probably SAG in. Probably, I hate to say, maybe 1 or 2% of our riders get a ride in. So that's another beauty of an organized ride. If you go out and you bite off a little more than you can chew, you got to ride home. You don't have to sit there and struggle and be miserable.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You just call an Uber.
And I wouldn't have thought about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And some people do. I mean, some people just get exasperated. I think some people get involved in things like that, and even an anxiety attack.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
It's, they're like, oh, I'm going to try something new. And then they get out there and they freak out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we do have mechanical support. Bikes Unlimited is our bike shop sponsor, and they're there before the ride. They're there the day before. So if you need your bike looked at, something's not working right. And so they're on course. So if they do, let's say you do have a mechanical and you break down on the parkway and you're like, oh, I really want to finish. And if our SAG drivers can't fix it, we'll get you to that rest stop where the mechanic is and we'll get you rolling. So that's another advantage of doing an organized ride.
So I don't really know anything about cycling or cyclists other than I lived on Coffee Road for about 17 years.
Yes.
And it seemed to be a favorite place.
Yes, it is.
So there's different levels of cyclists.
Yes.
And you all mentioned green, blue, and black. And is that a standard for cyclists or is that just you all's?
Is that the bib numbers, the color bib numbers, or what do you mean green, blue, and black?
Well, I was doing my stalking of your website.
Okay.
And it mentions that there's different levels of riders.
Okay.
So I guess green is like, I don't know, maybe a beginner or not so
Okay.
good, and
Yeah.
blue's in the middle, and
Okay,
black, you're good.
Even though it's my website, I'm like,
See, you're learning something
I know
new
it's
today.
like so we had different people write different articles for
Okay.
it. So let me explain like my kind of terminology as cyclists. So cyclists, you can have professional racers. Those are the ones you watch, doing the Tour de France, or
Yes.
they're actually getting paid to ride a bike. And then you might have amateur racers, Cat 1, 2, 3, 4, that maybe don't have a sponsor and they're just racing for fun, but they could win prize money in these USA, United States Cycling Federation sanctioned races. So we do have races in America, and we also have rides. So you can go to a race if that's what you want to do, and you have a license, a racing license. So we do get a lot of racers that come to do our ride. And then you have recreational riders. I would consider myself a recreational rider. And I'm a long distance rider. I love long distance, long, steady distance. or someone might say slow,
Mm.
but I'm like your marathon runner that can run all day,
Yes.
and not a sprinter. So you'll have some people that will come out and do a shorter route because they want to race it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have other people that, they might still race that 100-miler, but you'll have most of your recreational riders will enjoy that 75 and 100-mile route.
Well, it's funny that you say that because I was a distance runner, and about 4 or 5 months out of the year, I would run 10 miles a day, 4, 5, 6 days a week.
Right.
And when you were just making that comment, I remember that when I would run, I would see the scenery where I was running, so differently than I had ever seen the scenery before. Is it that way with cyclists?
Yeah. When you slow down, you get to see more things because you're not going so fast, and your head's not down staring at your data. So you can really enjoy it. And I think me personally, I think it's safer when you ride a little slower because you have more time. I wear a mirror, so you have more time to look around, look for deer crossing the road. But when you're hauling butt, and your focus is, dead ahead, and you're just working on that speed, it's kind of makes it a little dangerous when you're not in a controlled environment.
Yeah, it really is. And it amazes me because I would have a lot of neighbors complain about the cyclist on Coffee Road, but I would have a conversation with them about it's the beauty of the ride.
Right.
And so, be patient.
Yeah.
Because
and it goes both ways. I'm a firm supporter of share the road.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm riding my bike, especially if I'm alone. If I see, if I'm on Coffee Road, which is a very hard road to pass a cyclist, I will pull into a driveway and just say, come on. And they'll be so thankful. And it's like, I'm not in a hurry. But it's a little harder when you're with a pack of riders because then you're on a mission. But the group of people I ride with, we always, when we have a car, we'll yell car back, and we all go single file, and we will try to wave them on when we know it's clear for them to pass us safely, and we will slow down so they can pass us without us racing them. And so it's just, you just share the road. And Virginia roads, our roads are beautiful, but they are narrow.
Narrow and crooked.
Yes.
Very crooked. So when I was doing some research, I don't think that people, and we really should, Parks and Rec for the city is not a nonprofit, but it's really somebody that we should talk to here because there are so many parks in and around Lynchburg. It is insane. So Peaksview Park has a 10-mile, I don't want to refer to it as a track. What do you
It's off-road trails.
Okay.
So it's for mountain biking. Yeah. So they usually, when you ride the gravel off-road stuff, you'll have a thicker tire, a mountain bike tire. So Peaksview has that. Liberty, of course, Candler's Mountain, Liberty Mountain. They've got off-road trails there. New London Tech Trails in Bedford. Actually, it's in Forest, but in Bedford County. And then also in the city, you got Peaksview. Yeah, I guess it's Peaksview. And they've got some really nice. And Blackwater Creek Trail, before we had the flood, had a lot of off the pavement bike paths. And I think they're coming back. So they're starting to rebuild those.
Well, that's what I ride when I ride, which is not often as a mountain bike.
Yep.
Yeah. I need a little bit bigger seat and a little bit wider tires.
Another thing that we are open for, a lot of rides aren't, is e-bikes, electric bikes.
Oh, really?
So, yes, as we get older, those hills get a little steeper and a little harder. And so we've probably had 10 or 12 people ride e-bikes last year.
Well, and it's funny that you say that because I was reading that maybe last year before last, your youngest rider was 8, but your eldest rider was 82.
Yes. That's the beauty of cycling. Cycling is non-impact, so you're not hurting your joints. So, if all goes well, gosh, we should be cycling into our hundreds.
So who was the 82-year-old person?
That was probably Bernie Davis. Remember Bernie? He was a big runner.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Bernie, but he's moved to Ohio. So now, hold on, I'm getting old and my name's Tommy Harris. Tommy Harris right now is our oldest rider. He's in his low 80s.
Well, I have a really good friend, Pat Stother. Do you know Pat? Anyway, Pat, I wondered if Pat rode, but Pat I think is 84, 86.
Okay.
And so Pat, I think, has pretty much stopped riding, but
Okay.
he was really a triathlete up until a couple of years ago.
Okay. How do you spell his last name?
Stadther.
Okay, I'll have to look him up, see if because I'm sure he's probably done it.
Yeah.
Yep. And then we have a gentleman that comes from Powhatan, and he's in his early 80s. And he's a nice guy. So that's what's really fun is when you see these people. Most people come back, and it's just kind of like a big reunion, and so it's a lot of fun. So
That's great.
we'd love more people to come to Soder and John Bell Memorial Ride. So it's only been the John Bell Memorial Ride. This is our second year.
Second year.
Yep. So we decided last year to honor Dr. Bell and add him to our ride and our mission. So because he was an avid cyclist.
So tell me about these apps, Strava, App Trail Forks.
Yep. So Strava is basically a Facebook for cycling and running. And so what it does is you have to have a GPS unit, or you can do manual entries. So you basically journal your rides or your runs. And so if you have a Garmin or a Wahoo or I don't think Fitbit can, but if you had a Garmin watch, if you were a runner, you could upload your ride to Strava. And then Strava you basically can see anybody who's riding. You can see who you rode with. You can have friends and you can follow what they do. Then you can also have segments. Like on the 10 miler, they might have Farm Basket Hill, that 2-mile climb.
Yeah.
Who ran that the fastest? So Strava will track that. So they'll track certain segments. Like, so of course on our ride, who climbed Thunder Ridge the fastest? What's the fastest? So it's really cool if you are, most people, I tell people the only person you should be racing is yourself.
Yes, I agree.
So Strava is great for that. So you can keep track of your progress. I did a ride last week, same exact ride, and it'll tell you, hey, you did this ride 2 years ago. And I was 45 minutes slower this year. You know what? I don't care.
Who cares?
It's all right. I had fun. It was a
it's
beautiful
all right.
day.
I know.
And I'm getting older, and it's all right.
It's a very positive way. Tell me about this Pints After Pedals on Tuesdays.
So Pints After Pedals is a ride that Bikes Unlimited sponsors. It leaves from the bike shop down on Jefferson Street. And it's basically a family fun ride. A lot of kids, a lot of dogs, a lot of, people can take the bikes that Bikes Unlimited rents. So if you don't own a bike, you can come down and get on a bike, whether it be a townie or even an e-bike, and ride it. It goes from Bikes Unlimited on the Blackwater Creek Trail. It goes to the new extension that goes to Linkhorn Middle, I think, and then it comes back. So it's about 7-ish miles. Does that sound right, Robert? I don't get on the trail much.
I think so.
Yep. So it's a really fun time, and then they all meet usually after at the Water Dog.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So Pints After Pedals.
There you go. Well, maybe I'll just go for the pints.
There you go. You can just
I
meet
know.
us at the water.
That's
No one will
exactly
even
right.
know.
Nobody will know. I can have my clothes on and look, and I throw a little water on me like I've been sweating.
Yep. And so that's a great. I think it's great because so many people bring their kids, and you see kids on little bikes, you see kids on trikes, you see kids on what are called tag-alongs, where you attach to the parent's bike. And
That's
so
awesome.
it's a lot of fun. So people put a dog in a carrier and they'll pull a dog. And so if you are a runner, Tuesday nights, they're going to be on that trail. So be careful. And we try to be respectful. We try to stay to the right.
Yeah, the cyclists always were when I was on Coffee Road. Well, believe it or not, we're out of time.
Sweet.
Okay.
All right.
So Paula Dahl.
Yep.
So they need to contact you.
Yep.
They need to make donations. They need.
Yep.
You could
So
always
if
use
you
volunteers.
if you Google Stormer Thunder Ridge, it'll come up with our website on the YMCA. If you want to volunteer, you can send me an email there, or just send an email. You'll find us. We're available. We're approachable. Please come.
Awesome.
We love all cyclists.
You are awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you for having me.